Wealth from within. In a small village, nestled along the southern edge of a forest in China, there lived a potter named Shao Kahn. His life was simple. Each morning, he lit his kiln, shaped the clay, fired the pottery, then brought it to the local market to sell for enough money to buy rice. He had no wife, no children, no land or riches, only the old pottery kiln his father left behind. Though he worked diligently, life was always a struggle for Shao Kahn. During months of heavy rain, the clay wouldn't dry, and he couldn't make a single batch. At times, sales were so poor that he had to barter his wares for food. Often he would look up at the sky and sigh, "If only I were wealthy one day, everything would be different." Each night, before sleeping, Shao Kahn had a ritual. He lit a single stick of incense at his father's altar, then sat quietly in the dark, listening to the wind whisper through the door cracks, his heart filled with unfulfilled dreams. One night, in his sleep, he dreamed he stood in a field of white flowers. In the center stood a small moss-covered shrine. Inside sat an old man with hair white as frost, meditating silently. As Khan approached, the man opened his eyes and said, "You seek wealth, don't you?" Khan nodded, heart pounding. "To gain true wealth," the old man said, "you must pass 3 trials, but not to obtain gold, rather to claim what the elders call eternal treasure." Then he handed Khan a cracked clay jar, smiling. "Take this jar home and fill it with water from the old well east of the village, but remember, you must only use this jar." When Khan awoke, the jar from the dream sat beside his kiln. It was real, heavy, chipped, and leaking from the bottom. He was confused, but a part of him, the part that still longed for change, urged him to try. The next morning, he carried the jar to the old well. He filled it, but only took a few steps before the water had leaked out. He returned, filled it again, then again and again. By noon, his shirt was soaked and his hands burned. He slumped to the ground, head bowed. "This jar is useless. No matter how hard I try, it's all in vain." He was ready to give up. But just then, an old woman passed by with a bundle of grass on her back. She paused, looked at him, then silently knelt and pressed a clump of clay into the jar's crack. She walked away, leaving behind only one sentence: "Repair it first, then carry." Khan snapped out of his despair. He gathered more clay, mixed it with kiln ash and adhesive, and sealed the leak. By evening, for the first time, the jar carried a full load of water back home. As he set it down, a scrap of paper fell from the jar's bottom. It read, "He who hauls water with a broken jar will always feel useless, but one who mends the jar first understands the value of his own effort." After completing the first trial, Shao Kahn found no gold, nor received any praise. Yet something within him had quietly changed. A patience had settled in. Like the patched jar, his resolve felt whole again. A few nights later, the old man returned in his dreams, this time standing in a barren field of gray earth and withered grass. He looked at Khan and pointed downward. "Seeds lie here. Plant them, but you must not look back to check if they've sprouted until the time is right." He handed Khan a small pouch containing a few tiny black seeds, no bigger than sesame. Before vanishing, he spoke one last sentence: "Believing in what you cannot see is the beginning of wisdom." The next morning, the pouch was still beside his pillow. Khan was surprised, but didn't hesitate this time. He rose early, brought the seeds to the empty plot behind his house, the one villagers called useless because of its dry, lifeless soil. He dug neat rows, buried each seed, covered them, and watered them with the now mended jar. The first day, nothing. The second day, the soil remained still. By the third day, Khan began to waver. That old feeling crept in, the feeling of working without seeing results. He tiptoed outside, tempted to sneak a glance at the soil, but passing the jar, he saw a message written in charcoal on its lid, the old woman's earlier words: "Fix the jar, but also fix the heart." He stopped. Instead of checking the seeds, he returned indoors, lit the kiln, and shaped a fresh batch of pottery. For the first time in months, he worked with quiet peace, no frustration, no urgency. Days 4 and 5 passed. He continued watering, never peeking, just watering, then walking away. On the 7th day, as he brought water to the field as usual, a soft breeze brushed his face. He glanced down and froze. Among the cracked rows of dirt, tiny green sprouts were breaking through, fragile, trembling, but bursting with life. A faint smile crossed his lips, not the smile of one who found gold, but of someone who had waited long enough to witness the smallest miracle come alive. That afternoon, as Khan walked past the village tea house on his way to market, he spotted the old man, the one from his dreams, sitting at a wooden table, pouring tea for passers-by. He looked at Khan and simply nodded. Khan understood. The challenge wasn't really about seeds, it was about faith. And true wealth sometimes begins with waiting, with believing in what you cannot yet see. One overcast morning, while Khan was arranging a fresh batch of pottery, the old man appeared, not in a dream, but standing at his doorway, clad in plain linen, leaning on a bamboo staff, his eyes calm and steady. He spoke few words. He handed Khan a simple wooden bowl and said, "In this bowl must go the most precious thing you own. Give it to the beggar at the edge of the village. Do not ask why." Khan looked into the empty bowl, heart puzzled. His most precious thing? He had no gold, no status, only pottery, and the tender sprouts from behind his house. He glanced around. At last, he stepped into the kitchen and cooked a bowl of white rice, using the finest grain he had saved all month, the kind his mother used during past New Year festivals. He filled the bowl, covered it with a clean cloth, and walked out. At the far end of the village sat a frail beggar, thin, ragged, slumped beneath an old fig tree. Most villagers avoided his gaze, as he often mumbled nonsense and smiled strangely. No one knew where he came from. Khan approached, placed the bowl before him, and bowed silently. The beggar looked up and smiled, a gentle, peaceful smile. "You know, I was very hungry," he said. He lifted the cloth, inhaled deeply, and ate each bite slowly, as if savoring a royal dish. Khan did not leave. He sat beside him, calm and unhurried. The two remained there under the tree, listening to birdsong and the soft rhythm of chewing rice in the breeze. When the bowl was empty, the beggar turned to him. His eyes, no longer dull, now gleamed with unusual clarity. "You have learned," he said. "You understand what it means to sow, to wait. But today, you did something few ever do. You gave without asking for anything back. And what you gave was truly precious, sincere compassion from the heart." Khan blinked. In that instant, the beggar vanished into thin air, leaving only the wooden bowl resting quietly beneath the tree. He picked it up. It was no longer empty. Inside, carved from within the wood, appeared a message: "He who gives will never be empty." From that day forward, Khan no longer sought gold. Instead, he sought ways to help others, teaching village children to read, helping neighbors repair homes. He became cherished by all, not for what he owned, but for the peace he radiated. Years later, he would pause in his garden, watching the fruit trees blossom, holding that same wooden bowl in hand as a reminder that true wealth isn't measured by what we hold, but by what we give. As time passed, the little village transformed. Muddy paths were paved with stone, thatched roofs became red tiles, and the barren plot behind Khan's home grew into a flourishing orchard. But what people remembered most about Shao Kahn wasn't his pottery, it was the way he lived. Elders sought his counsel. Children came each morning to learn. Poor families found bags of rice or pottery by their doors, gifts never spoken of. And whenever someone thanked him, Khan would simply smile and say, "I'm only doing what a beggar once taught me." He had no silver or titles, yet Shao Kahn became the wealthiest man in the eyes of the village, for he gave not only what could be counted, but what could never be measured: time, presence, and compassion. One day, in his twilight years, Khan sat by his window, gazing at the vibrant orchard and the laughter of children in the yard. He smiled, hand resting gently on the old wooden bowl he'd kept for so long. Suddenly, the old man from long ago appeared once more, standing in the garden, hair like frost, eyes calm as ever. "Do you understand now?" he asked. "Understand what, master?" Khan replied, eyes moist. "That the real treasure is not hidden in gold mines or vaults, but in the seeds you sow in the hearts of others." Khan said nothing. The wind whispered through the leaves. In the setting sun, the old man turned and slowly walked away, dissolving into the orchard. Only his voice lingered. The richest man is the one who knows how to wait, how to give, and how to believe that love never runs dry. Years later, when Khan passed away, the whole village gathered at his small home. They found no great fortune, only notebooks filled with life lessons, kind advice, and the old wooden bowl resting honorably on the altar. A child asked his father, if he was so rich, why didn't he have any gold? The father smiled, "Because, my child, He left behind a treasure no one can lose: faith, kindness, and love. These don't live in chests, they live in people's hearts.